next time. Well, you guys want to check everything. Yeah, go ahead.
So let's get to it. Hello everyone, this is Nick with Concord Concrete Pumps on CTS YouTube channel. Welcome back. On today's episode, I want to show you how to use your pump manually with the valves. I want to show you how the valves work and what they do. In case of electrical failure, you can always finish a job or at least get cleaned out and get back to the yard and get this pump fixed. So let's get to it. I will show you all our valves and how they work. Okay guys, we're at the manifold block, the heart of this pump. So you've got your main valves that control your pumping and all the good stuff. So on the first gen, this is a first gen, so you got two blocks. You got a bigger block and you got the smaller block. On the bigger block you have the four-way valve. The four-way valve controls where the pressure goes in the cylinder. Either the driver's side cylinder and then the passenger side goes back to the tank, and when it switches over it goes the other way around where passenger side gets the pressure and driver's side goes back to the tank. So this is the valves that will control the pumping. These two valves control the logic valves that are inside the block. So when you press the pump on, the logic valves activate by pressure from your forwarding valves, and the pressure from the main pump will go into the logic valve, into the four-way valve, and into your pumping cylinders. So in case you have a electrical failure, you can always come here, press the passenger side forwarding valve, lock it in, and then get to the driver's side forwarding valve, lock it in. Now your pump will start pumping in a forward position. If you want to stop the pump off, then all you need to do is unlock the driver's side valve first, then the passenger side. Then your pump will stop pumping. So now I want to show you the smaller block. The smaller block, we've got a few different valves. We've got two reversing valves. They just reverse the flow of the oil in the four-way valves. Then we have another four-way valve here. This valve controls which cylinder will pressure out S-tube and switch S-tube to whichever side. On the front here, we've got a volume control valve that will regulate the pressure to the main pump and control the main pump output volume. Then right beside it we have a reducing valve that takes pressure from your accumulator pump, reduces from 190 to about 75 bar on this pump, and that 75 bar valve you can adjust here either manually underneath of this lock nut or electrically from your remote. Here we have a 190 relief valve. This relief valve relieves the accumulator pressure. So your accumulator sends a flow into this block. This valve relieves the excess pressure. So you get about 190 bar, which is perfect. This is the dump valve. This one, when you press the E-stop, it will energize and dump your accumulator pressure so the S-tube will not be able to move, which you also have a manual dump valve. You can open this dump valve in case, let's say, your electrical valve doesn't work or you're working on a hopper. So you'll come here and you'll just open the valve, the accumulator pressure will drop to zero, and then you can go in the hopper and work on your wear parts. So I want to show you how to pump in reverse. I already showed you how to pump in forward. You lock in this valve, then lock in this valve, it will start pumping forward. So I want to show you how to start pumping in reverse. These two are your reverse valves. What you will have to do, you'll come up here, you'll push this knob in, and turn it clockwise to lock this valve in. Same thing with this one. You'll push the valve in, turn it clockwise. These two valves will now be locked in, right? So now you're ready to start pumping. You just reversed all the flow in your four-way valves. Now you'll just come up here and do the same thing like you go on forwarding. You'll lock in this valve and then you'll lock in this valve. Now the pump will be in reverse. Now we'll be able to pump in reverse. If you want to go from reverse right away to forward, just come up here and unlock these two valves at the same time, and the pump will go into forward by itself right away. When you want to stop the pump, like I said, all you have to do is first unlock the driver's side forwarding valve, and then you can unlock the passenger side forwarding valve, and that way you will stop the pump. And I also want to show you guys about the pressure ports. We have a pressure port here, and we have two pressure ports on the passenger side of this small block. This pressure port you can check. So this pressure port you can check the reducing valve pressure. So the accumulator pump will send pressure here. To adjust this valve, you gotta know what the pressure is at. So you plug in your gauge right in here. Unscrew this little cover and put your gauge right in here. The pump is not on right now. I cannot show you how much pressure they have, but this way you'll be able to read your pressure and you can adjust your reducing valve to according pressure, which should be on this pump 75 bar. Then you have two gauge ports around here. They're kind of close together. You will have the volume control port and accumulator pump port. So volume control will be your 0 to 45 bar, and at 45 bar your pump will be as slow as it can be. At 0 pressure your pump will be full volume. This one right here is your accumulator port, so you plug in your gauge and you will check your accumulator pressure in case you're doing accumulator change or you just want to check your pressure. Anyway, some of these pumps will have this gauge port right on the driver's side, not in this case, but some of them will be right there, and that's where you can check the accumulator pump there. So if you only see one here, the other one should be right here. The accumulator pump pressure should be at 190 bar. So whenever you're checking, make sure you're getting 190 bar. A little bit less, a little bit more is not a problem, but not critically. Another relief valve we have here is your main pump relief valve, which is located right underneath your forwarding valve on the logic cover block. You will see right here. To check main pump pressure, you would have to put your volume all the way to the maximum position, bring your RPMs all the way to the max, and push and hold this forwarding valve, the driver's side. You'll push and hold it, and the pressure will spike up to the maximum at the gauge on the back by the hopper, which we'll show you in a second. Here we have the accumulator bottle. Accumulator bottle is filled with nitrogen. This is a 4-liter bag inside. Basically what this does is it helps you recover your accumulator pressure after each stroke. So once the stroke completes, your pressure will go down a little bit. This bottle will help you recover that pressure back to 190 bar quicker. So now I want to show you guys on the sensing valves and their purpose on these cylinders. So you have one sensing valve right here, and you have another sensing valve right there, like that one right there. So what it does is when the cylinder goes all the way down, it sends a small signal through the sensing valve to change over the spool in the four-way valves. So the pressure could go from one cylinder to another and complete the stroke, go to the next stroke, right? And then when the cylinder goes all the way up, it gives a signal to that valve, to the sensing valve right there, and does the same thing. It gives a signal to these valves and lets the valve switch over to the other side, so the stroke can continue in a different direction and you can continue pumping. So when you have an issue, let's say your pump is not stroking over, or it gets hung up at the end, it could possibly be a sensing valve issue. So check in on that sometimes. You also have check valves, which gives a balance of oil in the cylinders. There's one check valve right underneath this block connected to the driver's side cylinder, which you cannot see right now. It's right underneath the block. But there's one more right here. There's one right at the connecting block here. So there's this check valve and the one right underneath the block, which they make up the oil in the cylinders at the end of the stroke. Here at the side cabinet on the passenger side, we can locate our boom control levers. You have 6 valves. They operate your boom cylinders and your outrigger. In our cases, we have a outrigger accumulator valve. So in case of emergency, your accumulator pump fails, you do have accumulator function, so it will bypass the accumulator pump with the boom pump, and you'll be able to switch over your S-tube. Second valve is your main section valve. So this valve operates your main section cylinder, lets your cylinder go up and down. Right next to it, you have a second section cylinder valve. So this operates your second section. Then right next to it is your third section cylinder valve. This operates your third section. And then you have the fourth section boom control valve. So this operates your cylinder for the fourth boom section. In this case, you have 4 sections on the boom. So then you only have 6 valves. If you have a 5-section boom, you will have additional valves, so you'll have 7 valves. The last valve is your boom swing. This controls the boom swing left and right. So in case of emergency, let's say your remote doesn't work or your electricals fail, you have the receiver here for your remote system, right? If you're trying to operate this valve while the transmitter is in e-stop mode, you won't be able to, because the dump valve will dump all the pressure back to the tank in the e-stop mode. So in this case, what you want to do is unplug the cable, comes from receiver to the control panel. This will bypass the remote system, and the truck will operate hydraulically, manually instead of electrically. And you'll be able to operate this valve just by pulling the levers.